Robert Cletus. Bobby Driscoll was an American child actor known for a large body of cinema and TV performances from 1943 to 1960. He starred in some of the Walt Disney Studios' most popular live-action pictures of that period, such as Song of the South, So Dear to My Heart, and Treasure Island. He served as animation model and provided the voice for the title role in Peter Pan. In 1950, he received an Academy Juvenile Award for Outstanding Performance in Feature Films. In the mid-1950s, Driscoll's acting career began to decline, and he turned primarily to guest appearances on anthology TV series. He became addicted to narcotics, and was sentenced to prison for illicit drug use. After his release he focused his attention on the avant-garde art scene. In ill health due to his substance abuse, and with his funds completely depleted, he died in 1968, less than 4 weeks after his 31st birthday. Early life: he was born Robert Cletus Driscoll in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, the only child of Cletus, an insulation salesman, and Isabel, a former schoolteacher. Shortly after his birth, the family moved to Des Moines, where they stayed until early 1943. When a doctor advised the father to relocate to balmy California due to pulmonary ailments he was suffering from his work-related handling of asbestos, the family moved to Los Angeles. Driscoll's parents were encouraged to try to get Bobby into films. Their barber's son, an actor, got Bobby an audition at MGM for a bit role in the 1943 family drama Lost Angel, which starred then up-and-coming Margaret O'Brien. While on a tour across the studio lot, 5-year-old Driscoll noticed a mock-up ship and asked where the water was. The director was impressed by the boy's curiosity and intelligence, and chose him over 40 applicants. Career Wonder Child Driscoll's brief, 2-minute debut helped him win the role of young Al Sullivan, the youngest of the 5 Sullivan brothers, in the 20th Century Fox's 1944 World War II drama The Fighting Sullivans, opposite Thomas Mitchell and Anne Baxter. With his natural acting and talent for memorizing lines at that young age, he was soon considered a new wonder child. One major studio recommended him to another, leading to screen portrayals as the boy who could blow his whistle while standing on his head in Sunday Dinner for a Soldier, the child brother of Richard Allen in The Big Bonanza, and young Percy Maxim in So Goes My Love, with Don Emick and Minna Loy. In addition, he had a number of smaller roles in movies such as Identity Unknown in 1945, and Mrs. Susie's Legals, From This Day Forward, and OSS. With Alan Ladd, all 3 of which were released in 1946. Disney Driscoll was the first actor Walt Disney put under contract to play the lead character in 1946's Song of the South, which introduced live action into the producer's films, in addition to extensive animated footage. The film turned Driscoll and his co-star Lawana Patton into child stars, and they were discussed for a special Academy Award as the Best Child Actors of the Year, but in 1947 it was decided not to present any juvenile awards at all. Now nicknamed by the American press as Walt Disney's Sweetheart Team, Driscoll and Patton starred together in So Dear to My Heart, opposite acting balladeer Belle Ives and veteran character actress Beulah Bondi. It was planned as Disney's first all-live-action movie, with production beginning immediately after Song of the South, but its release was delayed until late 1948 to meet the demands of Disney's co-producer and longtime distributor RKO Radio Pictures for some animated content in the film. Driscoll played Eddie Cantor's screen son in the 1948 RKO Studios musical comedy If You Knew Susie, in which he teamed up with former Our-Gang member Margaret Kerry. He and Patton appeared with Roy Rogers and the Sons of the Pioneers in the live-action teaser for the Pecos Bill segment of Disney's cartoon compilation Melody Time, which was released in 1948. Driscoll was loaned to RKO to star in The Window, based on Cornell Woolrich's short story The Boy Cried Murder. However, Howard Hughes, who had bought RKO the previous year, considered the film unworthy of release and Driscoll not much of an actor, and delayed its release. When it was released in May 1949, it became a surprise hit and recouped a multiple of its production costs. The New York Times credited Driscoll with the film's success. The striking force and terrifying impact of this RKO melodrama is chiefly due to Bobby's brilliant acting, for the whole effect would have been lost were there any suspicion of doubt about the credibility of this pivotal character. The window is Bobby Driscoll's picture, make no mistake about it. So Dear to My Heart and The Window earned Driscoll a special Juvenile Academy Award in March 1950 as the Outstanding Juvenile Actor of 1949. Driscoll was cast to play Jim Hawkins in Walt Disney's version of Robert Louis Stevenson's Treasure Island, with British actor Robert Newton as Long John Silver, the studio's first all-live-action picture. The feature was filmed in the United Kingdom, and during production it was discovered that Driscoll did not have a valid British work permit, so his family and Disney were fined and ordered to leave the country. They were allowed to remain for 6 weeks to prepare an appeal, during which director Byron Haskin hastily shot all of Driscoll's close-ups, using his British stand-in to film missing location scenes after he and his parents had returned to California. Driscoll's work in this film earned him a star at 1560 Vine Street on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Treasure Island was an international box office hit, and there were several other film projects involving Driscoll under discussion, but none materialized. For example, Haskin recalled in his memoirs that Disney, although interested in Robert Louis Stevenson's pirate story as a full-length cartoon, always planned to cast Driscoll as Mark Twain's Tom Sawyer. At that point in time, he was at the perfect age for the role, but because of a story rights ownership dispute with Hollywood producer David O. Selznick, who had previously produced the property in 1938, Disney ultimately had to cancel the entire project. Driscoll was also scheduled to portray a youthful follower of Robin Hood following Treasure Island, again with Robert Newton, who would play Friar Tuck, but Driscoll's run-in with British immigration made this impossible. Driscoll's second long-run Disney contract allowed him to be loaned to independent Horizon Pictures for the double role of Danny Josh Reed in When I Grow Up. His casting was suggested by Oscar-winning screenplay writer Michael Kineen. In addition to his brief guest appearance in Walt Disney's first television Christmas show in 1950, 1 Hour in Wonderland, Driscoll lent his voice to Goofy, J.R. in the Disney cartoon shorts, Father's a People and Father's Lion, which were released in 1951 and 1952, respectively. Driscoll portrayed Robert Bibby Bunnard in Richard Fleischer's comedy The Happy Time, which was based on a Broadway play of the same name by Samuel A. Taylor. Cast with acting veterans Charles Boyer, Marcia Hunt, Louis Jourdan, and Kurt Cassar, he played the juvenile offspring of a patriarch in Quebec of the 1920s, the character upon whom the plot centered. Driscoll's last major success, Peter Pan, was produced largely between May 1949 and mid-1951. Driscoll was cast opposite Disney's Little British Lady Catherine Beaumont, who was in the role of Wendy Darling. He was used as the reference model for the close-ups and provided Peter Pan's voice, while dancer and choreographer Roland Dupree was the model for the character's motion. Scenes were played on an almost empty soundstage with only the most essential props, and filmed for use by the illustrators. In his biography on Disney, Mark Elliott described Driscoll as the producer's favorite live-action child star. Walt often referred to Driscoll with great affection as the living embodiment of his own youth. However, during a project meeting following the completion of Peter Pan, Disney stated that he now saw Driscoll as best suited for roles as a young bully rather than a likable protagonist. Driscoll's salary at Disney had been raised to $1,750 per week, and compared to his salary, Driscoll had little work from 1952 on. In March 1953, the additional 2-year option Driscoll had been extended was cancelled, just weeks after Peter Pan was released theatrically. A severe case of acne accompanying the onset of puberty, explaining why it was necessary for Driscoll to use heavy makeup for his performances on dozens of TV shows, was officially provided as the final reason for the termination of his connection with the Disney Studios. TV and radio Driscoll encountered increasing indifference from the other Hollywood studios. Still perceived as Disney unregistered trademark kid actor, he was unable to get movie roles as a serious character actor. Beginning in 1953 and for most of the next 3 years, the bulk of his work was on television, on such anthology and drama series as Fireside Theatre, Schlett's Playhouse of Stars, Front Row Center, Navy Log, TV Reader's Digest, Climax, Ford Theatre, Studio One, Dragnet, Medic, and Dick Powell's Zane Grey Theatre. On another series, Men of Annapolis, he appeared with John Smith, future second husband of Driscoll's Song of the South co-star, Lawana Patton. In some special star-focusing series, Driscoll appeared with Loretta Young, Gloria Swanson, and Jane Wyman. Between 1948 and 1957, he performed on a number of radio productions, which included a special broadcast version of Treasure Island in January 1951 and of Peter Pan in December 1953. And as it was common practice in this business, Driscoll and Lawana Patton did promotional radio gigs and toured the country for various parades and charity events through the years. In 1947, he recorded a special version of So Dear to My Heart at Capitol Records. In 1954, he was awarded a Milky Way Gold Star Award, chosen in a nationwide poll for his work on television and radio. Post-Disney. After he left the Disney Studios, Driscoll's parents withdrew him from the Hollywood Professional School which served child movie actors, and sent him to the public Westwood University High School instead. Though his grades dropped substantially, he was the target of ridicule for his previous film career, and he began to take drugs. He said later, "The other kids didn't accept me. They treated me as one apart. I tried desperately to be one of the gang. When they rejected me, I fought back, became belligerent and cocky and was afraid all the time." At his request, Driscoll's parents returned him the next year to Hollywood Professional School, where in May 1955 he graduated. However, his drug use increased. In an interview years later, he stated, "I was 17 when I first experimented with the stuff. In no time I was using whatever was available. Mostly heroin, because I had the money to pay for it." In 1956, he was arrested for the first time for possession of marijuana, but the charge was dismissed. On July 24, 1956, Hedda Hopper wrote in the Los Angeles Times, "This could cost this fine lad and good actor his career." In 1957, he had only two television parts, that of the loyal brother of a criminal immigrant in M Squad, a long-running crime series starring Lee Marvin, and as an officer aboard the submarine S-38 in an episode of the World War II docudrama series The Silent Service. In December 1956, Driscoll and his girlfriend Marilyn Jean Rush eloped to Mexico to get married, to avoid their parents' objections. The couple was later re-wed in a Los Angeles ceremony that took place in March 1957. They had 3 children, but the relationship didn't last. They separated, then divorced in 1960. Later roles. Driscoll began using the name Robert Driscoll to distance himself from his youthful roles as Bobby. He landed 2 final screen roles, with Cornel Wilde in the 1955 release The Scarlet Coat, and performing opposite Mark Damon, Connie Stevens and Francis Farmer in The Party Crashers. He was charged with disturbing the peace, and assault with a deadly weapon, the latter after hitting one of 2 hecklers with a pistol, who made insulting remarks while he was washing a girlfriend's car. The charges were dropped. His last known appearances on TV were, among others, small roles in 2 single-season series, The Best of the Post, a syndicated anthology series adapted from stories published in the Saturday Evening Post magazine, and The Brothers Brannigan, an unsuccessful crime series starring Stephen Dunn and Mark Roberts. Both were originally aired on November 5, 1960. Late in 1961, he was sentenced as a drug addict and imprisoned at the Narcotic Rehabilitation Center of the California Institution for Men in Chino, California. When Driscoll left Chino in early 1962, he was unable to find acting work. Embittered by this, he said, "I have found that memories are not very useful. I was carried on a silver platter and then dumped into the garbage." New York City, Indiana, 1965. A year after his parole expired, he relocated to New York, hoping to revive his career on the Broadway stage, but was unsuccessful. He became part of Andy Warhol's Greenwich Village art community known as The Factory, where he began focusing on his artistic talents. He had previously been encouraged to do so by famed artist and poet Wallace Berman, whom he had befriended after joining Berman's art circle in Los Angeles in 1956. Some of his works were considered outstanding, and a few of his surviving collages and cardboard mailers were temporarily exhibited in Los Angeles at the Santa Monica Museum of Art. In 1965, early in his tenure at the factory, Driscoll gave his last known film performance, in experimental filmmaker Piero Hellicher's underground movie Dirt. Death. In late 1967 or early 1968, the penniless Driscoll left the factory and disappeared into Manhattan's underground. On March 30, 1968, about 3 weeks after his 31st birthday, two boys playing in a deserted East Village tenement at 371 East 10th Street found his body. The medical examination determined that he had died from heart failure caused by an advanced hardening of the arteries because of his long-time drug abuse. There was no identification on the body, and photos taken of it and shown around the neighborhood yielded no positive identification. When Driscoll's body went unclaimed, he was buried in an unmarked pauper's grave in New York City's Potter's Field on Hart Island. Late in 1969, about 19 months after his death, Driscoll's mother sought the help of officials at the Disney Studios to contact him for a hoped-for reunion with his father, who was nearing death. This resulted in a fingerprint match at NYPD, which located his burial on Hart Island. Although his name appears on his father's gravestone at Eternal Hills Memorial Park in Oceanside, California, it is a cenotaph since his remains still rest on Hart Island. Driscoll's death was not reported until the re-release of his first Disney film, Song of the South, in 1971–1972, when reporters researched the whereabouts of the film's major cast members, and his mother revealed the tragic outcome. Tributes. In February 2009, singer-songwriter Benji Fairy released Come Back to the Five and Dime Bobby D, a concept album based in part on Driscoll's life. In September 2011, American singer-songwriter Tom Russell released the song Farewell Never Neverland on the album Mesabi, an elegy for Bobby Driscoll as Peter Pan. Selected filmography. Film and television stage radio shows This is not necessarily a complete list. It displays all those that could be located and verified. Recordings. See also Wallace Berman. Footnotes. Literature. Byron Haskin interviewed by Joe Adamson, the Directors Guild of America and the Scarecrow Press, Incorporated. Metuchen, New York and London, 1984. ISBN 0-8108-1740-3 pages 166–186, Natasha Fraser Cavassoni, Sam Spiegel The Incredible Life and Times of Hollywood's Most Iconoclastic Producer. 2003 Simon & Schuster, New York, London, Toronto, Sydney, Singapore, ISBN 0-684-83619 pages 119–20, 134, 143, 267, 361, Richard Fleischer, Just Tell Me When to Cry A Memoir, 1993 Carolyn Graf Publishers, Incorporated, New York ISBN 0-888184-944-8 pages 79–83. 103, Suzanne Gargiulo, Hans Conrad A biography. With a filmography and a listing of radio, television, stage and voice work, McFarland and Company Incorporated, Jefferson, North Carolina, 2002 pages 78–79, Michael Duncan and Christine McKenna, Samina Culture Wallace Berman and His Circle, Santa Monica Museum of Art, 2005, Mark Elliott, Walt Disney Hollywood Stark Prince a biography, 1993, 1994, Andre Deutsch Limited, first paperback edition, London, 1995. ISBN 0-233-98961-7. Rudy Bahama, Memo from David O. Selznick, The Viking Press, New York and Macmillan Company of Canada Limited, 1972, ISBN unknown pages 43N, 310, 431, Moulton, Leonard Moulton. The Disney Films. Crown Publishers Incorporated, New York, 1973. LOC number 72 to 84292. ISBN unknown Euro pages 74, 76, 78, 83 Euro 85, 87 Euro 88, 97 Euro 100, 107, Mosley, Leonard. The Real Walt Disney. Grafton Books, 1986. ISBN 0-246-12439-3. Snuck, Darrell F. and Rudy Bahama, editor. Memo from Darrell F. Snuck, The Golden Years at 20th Century Fox. ISBN 0-8021-3332-0. External links: Bobby Driscoll at the Internet Movie Database, Bobby Driscoll at AllMovie, Bobby Driscoll at Find a Grave.